If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Epic views, waterfall mists, summit sunsets. It's all better outside. And with All Trails, you can discover the best of nature with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today and find your next adventure.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
Hello, everyone. I just want to tell you about a podcast I think you'll enjoy. If you're like me, I'm always on the podcast apps looking for something else scary to add to my feed. And this one is called The Most Terrifying Places in America by the Travel Channel. On the podcast, they visit some of the creepiest locations across the United States. They go to a hotel in New England where guests wake up and they're covered in scratches. My personal favourite is the one where there's a church in the middle of the woods and the security guards have to stay there for the night, and it's really, really creepy. There's so many different places on there. Get yourself a nice coffee or tea, pop it on and enjoy. Listen to The Most Terrifying Places in America wherever you get your podcast.
This is Hannah Berner from Giggly Squad. O-Pill is the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Let's be real, getting a birth control prescription is not always easy, and it's so much admin. In fact, about a third of women face barriers to access prescription birth control. Between scheduling appointments, missing work, class, or just trying to exist, it's a lot. But now O-Pill is putting birth control in our control. O-Pill is a daily birth control that's FDA approved, full prescription strength and estrogen free, and 98% effective when used as directed. Grab it online or at most major retailers, no prescription or doctor's appointment needed. So if you're thinking about birth control, check out O-Pill to see if it's right for you. Use code GIGGLY for 25% off your first month of O-Pill at OPILL.com. That's code GIGGLY at OPILL.com. Birth control in your control. We love to see it.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Whispering Woods Reddit and Listener Story episode. I've got 3 spooky stories to share today. I'll get straight into them. Are you ready for the first story? I stayed overnight in Poland's most haunted castle and was left traumatized. Hello, everyone. I'm writing this post not only to share my experience, but to maybe gather an understanding from people who are more knowledgeable in the spirit world than I am. Prior info. Nitzika Castle, aka Dunajec Castle, is a 14th century medieval castle with various legends leading to its title of Most Haunted. It is open to visitors, but I believe in order to stay inside the castle overnight, you would have to have connections in order to organise access. In May 2019, myself my parents, and my friend at the time, we were 16, were given an opportunity to spend the night in Niedzika Castle during our Poland trip, as my mum's family in Warsaw have some connections to tour guides. Me and my friend being young and impressionable, my mother did not say anything about the castle being haunted prior to our stay, as it would have obviously freaked us out. So we had no idea of the stories surrounding the castle / town. Skipping forward to late at night, we were inside the bed, located in the pillar of the castle. We were fine. Instantaneously, a negative / heavy energy kind of entered the room and was imposed on both of us. It's hard to say without sounding cliché, but it's definitely a feel of impending dread. Like, don't look at your surroundings, keep your eyes on the screen dread. We joke that this place is haunted because we got goosebumps at this shift of energy. No trigger that caused it, we were just chilling. What really made us feel uneasy is that we both seemed to feel it at the same time. Fast forward, watching more movies on our laptop. It's late at this point, and while my eyes are on the screen, I just know that something's looking at me. My friend proceeds to point out the spot behind the dresser, close to the entrance, and tells me she's getting bad vibes and doesn't want to look at the spot. Weird, right? The best description is maybe a shadow or silhouette, or maybe nothing visual at all, that is standing in the corner of the room. The thing is, me and my friend could exactly describe her in the exact same way. Blonde / golden hair, definitely a female presence, and very, very negative, sad, possibly angry energy. We couldn't see anything with our eyes at all, but we know exactly where she was and what she looked like. I think the most uneasy part was just the feeling of being watched by something that does not want you there. By the time we kind of acknowledged her presence and what she looked like, me and my friend were on top of each other in bed because we were literally frozen in fear. My parents were in the master bedroom next door. I could easily shout out something to wake them up, but we couldn't. Me and my friend were huddled together in bed, frozen. We were nervously laughing, but really trying to avoid eye contact with this weird presence. I'm not sure if she was angry at us, or maybe just an angry / sad spirit in general. We just ended up both passing out. We couldn't decipher any intelligible message. It was just kind of intuition that this young blonde woman was there with us. Next morning, packed up and left. Obviously told my parents about our night, and she was very uncomfortable. What she didn't tell us was the legend of the castle, which involves some story of a woman who lived there hundreds of years ago being murdered. I was told she was thrown into the castle well. Other sources say she was killed in other ways, for which her spirit has never left the castle in order to protect something along those lines. I've found very few sources that go into detail. I've never read anyone else's experience either. But I'd love to know from this experience the chances of it being a real claim, given that we were two witnesses of it. Is the translucent figure, orb, mental image, telepathy common for a human spirit? The story that we had absolutely no clue about seems to match up. it is a super coincidence by what we had described and the Lady of the Castle's story. P.S. My parents did not experience anything that night. They fell asleep early and slept soundly through the night. Although the portrait across from their bed kept giving them cheeky looks, it's so hard to find out any sort of info, of substance, of need seeker. So maybe someone has heard of it before, stroke has any info. Unlikely though. I can just imagine being a teenager and this happening with my best friend, and like weird stuff did happen with my best friend when we'd hang about, go camping, whatever. And I'm really picturing this story happening to us and imagining that, yeah, you can sense something in the corner. Can't really say anything physical is there, but you can describe it. And I know that my daughters have several experiences like this as well with a little girl in one of her best friend's houses that used to appear. It's spooky. Just before I get into this story, I want to give a quick shout out to an Etsy shop. This is the author's wife's shop, and I want to give it a shout out because she does some amazing horror props on there. There are like curiosities. She's in the process of making some new stuff too. So please give it a check out. I've put a link in the podcast notes because it's great. It really is great. Are you ready for the second story? Inexplicable incident. I've been encouraged to share an experience my wife and I had a few years ago. It's always haunted me because there's no logical explanation to it. I want to start off by confessing I am an atheist, and I do not believe in ghosts and stroke or the supernatural. I also don't believe in demons, angels, etc. My wife, however, does, and she was born a Christian, is still a believer, and while she doesn't go to church, her parents are active churchgoers, and from time to time we both attend for special occasions. Despite being an atheist, I'm not anti-religion. I wanted to point out, because in the context of what I'm about to share, I think it's relevant, and also good for you to know I'm not someone who points towards an experience as paranormal without good reason. Also, my wife is very much into horror. She loves horror movies, horror books, and she runs a business creating horror curiosities, Ouija boards, as well as Victorian fairground-themed dolls. Again, this provides added context to what I'm about to share. So back in 2016, we moved to a house in South Staffordshire, England. The house was roughly 100 years old at the time. A few weeks in, we started noticing bizarre things happening. We'd be sitting in the front room, watching TV, and we'd hear footsteps, or what sounded like footsteps, coming from upstairs. It was so loud, we'd stop the TV or whatever we were doing, listening out, and we'd hear it again. I'd go and investigate, only for there to be nothing and no one upstairs. Of course, it could only be floorboards creaking. That's the only logical conclusion. It's an old house. Floorboards are going to creak. Then we'd wake up, and picture frames would be crooked. The lid of the bin would be loose, or even off. Lights would be on. Again, you could argue there are logical explanations for all of these things. Anything could have caused a picture frame to move. Maybe one of us left the lid of the bin loose or not secure, and leaving a light on without realising isn't uncommon. Then there were the night terrors, My wife would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming, adamant she'd seen someone in the room, or even floating above her head. But again, it could be argued she was dreaming vividly, so much so she was convinced it was real. I could go on, but the point here is, every paranormal-like activity in the house, there was always an argument to rationalise what was happening, and the likelihood is the logical explanation would be the accurate one. So here comes the inexplicable thing. In our dining room, we have an old-fashioned bureau, and on the bureau was a sculpture of a hand. We'd put mail for one another in between the fingers, or if we received a card for a birthday or whatever, it'd go in between the fingers for a while. To be honest, most of the time I wouldn't even notice. One evening, my wife asked if I'd seen the card I got her for when she got her master's degree. She said she'd had it on the hand sculpture, but it's not there anymore, and had I moved it. Like I said, I'd hardly noticed it, and I never even knew she put the card there. So, we searched the entire room. I even lifted the bureau so my wife could look underneath. It was gone. Nowhere to be seen. I joked. Maybe the ghost took it. This became a running joke. Whenever anything happened, we'd blame it on the ghost. Anyway, we moved on and agreed the card would have to show up at some point. Weeks passed and nothing. The card wasn't anywhere to be seen. I'd even forgotten about it. So, it's coming up to my wife's birthday. Part of her gift, being the horror obsessive that she is, I got us tickets to a ghost hunt at an old haunted pub. We've been to a few of these ghost hunts. Most of the time it's a load of nonsense, but it's a laugh and we meet some nice, if somewhat eccentric people there. Overall, it's a good experience, even if we're standing in the dark for most of the time, calling out for a ghost that isn't really there. So we go to the ghost hunt, a few things go on, and then we're all split into groups to use a Ouija board. I'm dubious. I've done these on ghost hunts before. And because everyone wants to get spooked or experience something, it always felt like the glass was being moved on purpose. And I felt no different this time. Even when the glass came to me, when we'd asked who does the spirit want to speak to. So I asked silly questions. I can't even remember what I'd asked, until my wife said, "Ask if our house is haunted." So I did. "Is our house haunted?" The glass moved to yes. "Is it a friendly ghost?" The glass moved to yes. Then I had an idea. "Did this ghost steal my wife's card?" The glass moved to yes. "Can I have the card back, please?" The glass moved to yes. "Can I have it back tonight, please?" The glass moved to yes. I swear on my mother's life, we came home a few hours later, and in the middle of the dining room, on the floor, was my wife's card. This is weeks and weeks after it was lost, so the floor had been swept, hoovered, and despite that, we searched so thoroughly for it, we would have noticed, or my wife would definitely have noticed for sure. This was about 7 or 8 years ago now. We've moved. We've bought a cottage that's over 150 years old. But there's been zero activity, thankfully. But I can't explain or find a logical or rational explanation for what happened that night. It was really bizarre. I'm sharing this here because I'm curious as to what others think, or if anyone has had a similar experience. Just wow, really. The Ouija board told them that it would bring back or would communicate with the spirit in the house and bring back the card. I thought that was really, really interesting. I've never played with, well, I have played with the Ouija board when I was a teenager, and we made one with like paper letters and stuff, and it really freaked me out and still scares me to this day. So I won't go near those. But yeah, really interesting, and definitely a ghost in their old house. Are you ready for the third and final story? A potential encounter in Humboldt Redwoods State Park, California, Elby Creek Campground. After reading many of your stories, decided it was time to share my one potential encounter that happened in July 2015. My wife and I and our two fearless Chihuahua mix brothers, they have some beagle in them, went on our first family camping trip up the California coast and up to Oregon. My wife had never camped in a tent before, and neither had the two dogs. I used to be a hearty camper, but middle age takes over, and that sleeping bag is awfully uncomfortable, even with an air mattress. We drove up from Southern California, and our first destination was the Humboldt Redwood SP, just off the coast, and it was for just one night before moving on. We were able to snag a camping spot in the Elby Creek campground there, which had a nice separation between each spot. Each camping site had a bear-proof storage box, campfire ring, and a picnic table, flush toilets and paid showers, around 50 plus yards away. Pretty standard. After setting up our 4-person tent, dogs are people, you know, we had a time to explore before making dinner over the campfire. Directly behind the tent is an old tree stump, about 3 feet high, from a long ago chopped tree. My wife leaned against it, and we were pondering how long ago this tree was cut. Probably a decade or two ago at least. More on this later. After a fine gourmet steak dinner, you have to live it up, especially since I had Boy Scout acquired cooking skills over a fire from my youth. We cleaned up and stored all food in the bear-proof metal container outside. Inside the tent, the two dogs had their little beds between our sleeping bags. Sometime in the middle of the night, I think it was 2 or 3 a.m, I'm not sleeping all that great, trying to find a comfortable position, and my wife nudges me hard and starts whispering that something is touching her. I quietly roll over and saw in the dark that something was touching her head through the tent wall and moved away as it probably heard us. This was probably 6 to 10 inches above the ground. She's telling me quietly to go out there and see what it is. No way. We had a partial moon that night, so it was dark, but just a bit of light was out, so it was not completely a dark night. I told her to stay quiet and stay still. She'd moved away slightly from the tent wall already. The two dogs who bark at any person, dog, cat, squirrel, possum or raccoon. We have a few animals that visit our little backyard at home, which the dogs bark at, are shivering badly and not making a sound. They are curled up between my wife's legs and trying to get inside her sleeping bag. What great guard dogs, huh? After a short time, we heard something moving away in the leaves gently, but could not tell if it was big or small. We never heard any other sounds or smelled anything. I went out of the tent about 15 to 20 minutes later with my flashlight and didn't see anything, of course. Figured to shine the light all around to let anyone know that I was out of the tent. The neighbouring camping trailer was probably about 90 to 100 feet away, behind the tree stump I mentioned earlier, partially visible in between trees and shrubs. They have no lights on. There was no camping spot in the other direction for a longer distance. the people camping across the road were probably about 80 to 100 feet away, and I did not see any lights on there either. The next morning was weird. We got no sleep that night, obviously, and we were kind of dragging. Made some coffee and started packing up our gear. Did not see any footsteps on the ground in the area behind the tent, but the soil was hard packed. But on that tree stump I mentioned earlier were several small polished rocks, river rocks I assumed, that were not there the evening before. Our neighbours next door might have walked through and left them there for some reason. We did not see any kids next door, just a couple of adults. Or someone else could have. We stopped by the ranger booth to hand in our camping pass, and I asked the middle-aged gentleman about what types of animals were in the area. He said that bears do wander in on occasion, but it's rare nowadays, since they get poached outside of the park quite often. He's not seen a bear or bear scat around the Alby area for a year or two at least. He said that they had the usual deer and some elk not far away nearby, but they rarely come into the campground, the elk. And of course all of the usual small mammals such as squirrels, raccoons and foxes. Asked him if any of these would come near the tent, since someone touched my wife through the tent wall. He just smiled and shrugged his shoulders and did not say a word. End of conversation. If it would have been any of those small animals, the two dogs would have gone nuts barking, as they do in our own backyard when cats, squirrels, possums and raccoons walk along the cinder block tall wall, just to torture the dogs, I'm sure. So I make no claims on what happened, but it is not explainable under the circumstances, due to the dogs shivering in fear, not making a noise, and not barking at whatever it was. Hope you enjoyed the story. Can anyone venture any other ideas besides Sasquatch? Since this area is his territory, supposedly.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Granger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Granger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here, it's not only the amazing views, but the way time stretches out a little longer and how the breeze hits just right at the summit. With All Trails, you can discover nature's best with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today.
This is a bizarre case. So I'm always going to go with it was Bigfoot, because everybody knows I am a firm believer in Bigfoot and other entities, because I just want life to be magical, and that's the way I flow. But I think it was. I mean, there's a good possibility for sure if it's Bigfoot country area. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Lies, exploitation, and the American dream turned nightmare. This is Big Sugar, a deep dive into the inner workings of the sugar industry. I'm Celeste Headley, and in a new podcast, I'm investigating a true crime story like no other about the men who risked their lives to cut sugarcane. In Big Sugar from iHeartMedia, Imagine Audio, and the teams at Weekday Fun and Novel, I'll unravel a decades-long fight to get justice.
If they were right, then these workers were owed tens of millions of dollars in extra wages.
Listen to Big Sugar wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.